Hello and welcome to a new series from the Logs, and welcome to the first episode of that series from the Logs. Welcome to Real Talks. Real Talks is about having real talks about real issues with me, Yanni. Hold on.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what do I
Just say your
say.
name and me, Christina.
Okay. I panicked. I just froze.
Can we not mess up too much? Because
No, I'm
I
sorry.
just edit all this.
I panicked. Okay, I'm sorry.
No. Real Talks is about having real talks about real issues with me, Yanni.
And me, Christina. Did you get it?
Yeah. So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what matters on Real Talks. Some topics like today's are going to be a bit more lighthearted, and others will be more intense. But whatever the topic, no matter the topic, with every topic, a real talk needs to be had.
That's right. Whether it's movies or books or politics or religion or relationships or mentality, it doesn't matter because we are talking real on Real Talks.
Exactly. Real Talks, Episode 1, From Origin to Endgame, coming right up.
Let's do it.
Hello, welcome to episode 1 of Real Talks, From Origin to Endgame. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about heroes in Endgame, Avengers Endgame, that is. So if you haven't seen the movie, Avengers Endgame, in theaters now, and in theaters for about 2 weeks now, go and see it, because we're going to be spoiling a lot here. We're going to be talking about how the heroes in that movie, in Avengers Endgame, have progressed so far through the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and where their stories have gone so far. So we will take a look at the 6 Avengers, the 6 core and original Avengers, and we're going to understand their stories up to this point. We're going to go back before we go forward and before we go to Endgame and understand where they've come from and where they will go. Do you have any more to say about the topic here? I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
No, I think it's time to dive right in.
I think it's time to dive right in. All right. I think we have to start off with our first Avenger here, Iron Man.
Iron Man. Well, technically, Captain America was the first Avenger.
That's true.
If we're going on a technicality, then it would be
Technicality in chronological order. Yeah, that's true. But
yeah.
I'm saying in terms of chronological.
In terms of the movie.
In terms of the movies, yeah. We'll say Iron Man is
2008.
It came out in 2008, 11 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
To great success, it launched the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic. It launched the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, with Avengers Endgame, 22 movies strong.
And counting.
Next movie is coming out in July, Spider-Man Far From Home. We'll make it 23. And I don't know if you saw, but now they've locked down, I think, 8 more dates for movies up until 2022.
They haven't officially announced the title or what they're going to be, but they have announced those 8 dates.
They have, yeah. So it's 2 in 2020, 3 in 2021, and 3 in 2022.
Yeah, that's
8 more movies, and I think they're going to announce the titles of the movies this July. I think after Spider-Man Far From Home drops July 2nd, they will have. I think they're going to be in Comic-Con where they're going to be talking about those movies and kind of outline the next 3 years of Marvel movies. But right now, we're focused on with Avengers Endgame, and we're focused on the stories of the 6 Avengers in Avengers Endgame. The 6 Avengers that started it all off with Marvel's The Avengers in 2012. We're starting off with Iron Man, as we've said, and Iron Man has progressed. I mean, I would say the most.
I think it's safe to say that he has one of the biggest character arches from his solo all the way to Endgame.
Yeah, definitely. What just start us off. Just tell us a little bit about his personality in the beginning. And in Iron Man, who was he? I guess before the attack,
Before the terrorist attack.
before the terrorist attack, yeah, on him in that movie. And because you could also take into account in Iron Man 3 where they had in the beginning of the movie that flashback sequence. So
Hmm.
you can take into account his character in Iron Man, very cocky guy,
Yeah.
um, very self-absorbed, and then how he's gone until now. So like in that movie, I mean, he could define it himself. He's a gen- he's a genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, and it really shows. So how about you take us through a little bit of that and why he was that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. He was all for the money. He was very, I mean, even in the first Iron Man, he had his name plastered everywhere, and we can see that.
Yeah.
He was a womanizer until he got in a ship with Pepper, but he kind of was a man that lived for himself.
Hmm.
And I think part of that came from the childhood trauma that he had and not being that close to his father, which kind of damaged him there. But he was pretty arrogant, pretty cocky. He was the polar opposite of what he is now. I think everyone can say that.
Hmm.
It's fair to say. Because now he's such a father figure and he's more selfless. In 2008, in the first Iron Man, he was more selfish, and that's pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially as you explore his character up to this point, the relationship that he has with Spider-Man, which really
Yeah.
shows his father figure-ness of how he's become that father to Spider-Man, that Spider-Man Peter Parker was
I
lacking.
think someone did the math and said that Tom Holland and RDJ, or Spider-Man and Iron Man, in a conglomeration of all of the screen time they had together was no more than like 20 minutes, maybe less.
Oh,
So
really?
what Marvel did beautifully is that they were able to make this unbreakable bond, this really amazing bond between two characters that didn't even have an hour of screen time together overall. And that
Wow.
includes Civil War, Homecoming, and Infinity War, and now Endgame. That was the four they were in together, right? I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And wait, in Civil War, that 20 minutes is including that long scene that in his bedroom in Civil War where they're talking.
Yeah, but it wasn't really 20 minutes. It was probably like, I don't know, 8 minutes.
Okay,
Not
yeah.
even, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
not even eight. So then
Wow.
you take that, and then you take his. I don't even think RDJ had that long of a screen run in Homecoming.
No, I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
they said 12 minutes for that or something like that in
yeah,
the
yeah,
entire movie.
yeah,
And even that, it's not like they're not face to face all the time. Like the one scene
yeah,
where he was just like some like he was abroad somewhere and he was just talking to Peter through the Iron Man suit. But you can
right,
still
yeah,
see the relationship being built because in that scene, Spider Man was kind of he wasn't listening to what Iron Man was telling him. Being a
yeah,
friendly neighborhood Spider Man, leave it alone, I'll handle it. And kind of being like a kid, not listening to their parents.
yeah, and
Um,
and that I think Tony started noticing a little bit of himself in Peter in the beginning, which is why he said when they were arguing on the bridge, he said, I sound like my dad now when he was talking to Peter
yeah,
because he
and
sees like
he's like, I want you to be better.
I wanted you to be better. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want you to be like me.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's really like the core of their father son relationship, and that's why it was
Yeah.
so emotional when Peter was dusted in Infinity War, and then the reciprocal happened in Endgame, where I mean Iron Man wasn't dusted, but he died,
Yeah,
and now it's
yeah.
permanent. And now you could actually see it in the trailer from Far From Home, where he's
It opens
still,
up with it.
yeah, it opens up with it. He's still struggling with that loss,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
Peter.
not
No, go
okay,
ahead.
no, I was gonna say like not only with Peter, but with Happy Hogan, there's the relationship there with Pepper's the relationship, but now obviously with his daughter Morgan. It's gonna be interesting to see how she's gonna grow in the MCU if
Yeah.
they're gonna include her in the MCU.
The cool thing about that is that I feel like there's so many kids now in the MCU that in
Yeah,
10 years they're going to be like the Avengers. Like they're just
yeah.
planting seeds for like the next 10 years.
I
And
mean, they even did it in the opening of Endgame with Hawkeye's daughter, what's her name? Not Cassie. Cassie's Ant-Man's daughter.
Yeah, Cassie's Ant-Man's daughter. I don't remember her name because he called her Hawkeye in the opening of Endgame, but
Yeah, he did.
Hawkeye in the comics is different. Like with when his the female Hawkeye in the comics is different from the male Hawkeye. She has a different name, and I don't think that name that she has in the comics was given to the one in the movie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but she's probably going to become Hawkeye because they have the series too on Disney Plus now in November when it comes out or whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it's going to be dealing with, and then eventually she's going to be coming into the movies because this is a Marvel Studios production. So, and I think Kevin Feige said for sure that all these people that are going into their series are still going to come back and become, they're still going to be Avengers.
By the way, Disney Plus is a brilliant move by Marvel because it's just gonna keep it's kind of like a new Netflix thing, and they're not, because a lot of the times what they do especially like in comic, they have the movies, those actors, and then the TV shows and different actors with the same character.
Yeah,
and it doesn't confuse, it just separates, like creates this distinct line between the two. But what I like about it is that they're taking characters that you know and love and you've grown with over 10 years, and they're bringing them onto their TV show to kind of see their story by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And like once you see this story, it's like it's going to matter because it's going to go back into the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like just going to be. It's like even within Marvel, it's not like you have to go out to DC to see this. Like there's a disconnect between like the Marvel Netflix shows, the ones on ABC like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There's a new one, Cloak and Dagger, I think.
Yeah, Cloak and Dagger, all those ones that are published by Marvel Television and ABC usually. There's still a disconnect because they never show up in the movies. But now, because with Disney Plus, it's all through Disney. They don't have to make outside deals with anything. Yeah. They could just make whatever they want. They could have, I think, the Winter Soldier one, or a Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And they could do that. They could make 6-hour-long episodes, 6 hours of content, and they could, make what the story they want to tell, and they don't have to stretch it to 13 episodes or 10 episodes or whatever.
Exactly.
Make a whole season. It's like, I want to tell this story, and this is the story, the logical progression of that story. It doesn't need 13 hours. It just needs 6.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see them in the movie after that. And that's also important too, because that's the evolution of Marvel, as we're talking about, from the origin to the end game. It's Marvel has gone and learned from its mistakes about separating television and movies and making one cohesive package. So,
yeah, I didn't know where to transition.
So, okay, let's go back to Iron Man, and just understand him again. Understand his progression from. We understand that he was the very self-absorbed, very cocky man in Iron Man, and then in Iron Man 2, he was still much the same. I think after his experience in the cave, or I forget the guy's name, the doctor in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
He was. They had that experience. They're like, you know what? He realized what his weapons do and what the hurt that he can bring to people. And after that, he really just tried to fix that. He was still the self-absorbed guy, but he realized that, he gave the company to Pepper. He's like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need to focus on myself. I need to focus on what I have to do. And Iron Man was the thing that he had to do to protect people. Originally, he made it to destroy the things like the Stark weaponry that the people had stolen, that those terrorists had stolen. But then he realized that it could do more, I think. And that's what brought him in contact with Nick Fury and with the world of the Avengers. Yeah,
because in Iron Man 2, he not only met Nick Fury, but he met Black Widow, who's another one of the original 6.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he was introduced to a bunch of those, he goes back to his father, and then he was introduced with the intel, the stuff that they had to read. He learned more about Captain America and the Hulk and Hawkeye, and more about the team.
Yeah.
And while, Tony was realizing there's this whole world around him, Marvel in the real world was realizing how to create some sort of universe. because it's easy to work. I mean, okay, it's not very easy, but in terms of what Marvel has done, it's easy to work on one movie, but then how do you connect that movie to a bunch of other movies? I think Joe Russo said in Endgame there are 11 franchises in that movie. So how do you connect those 11 franchises and have them all meet at Endgame?
I mean, I think that's one of the things that Marvel fans truly admire about Marvel. It's because it's so intricate, and it's not just like one movie stands alone, but it's now you're like involved in it. You've grown up with these movies, and they're kind of a part of you now because you've seen one, you've seen another. So if you walk into a Marvel movie, like, yeah, you'll enjoy it. But if you haven't seen the ones prior, you're gonna be like, oh, who's that? Who's this? What's the relationship there? But the beauty behind it is, like, even in Endgame, I think it's one scene that's kind of underrated is when Nebula comes off the ship after Captain Marvel saves Tony and Nebula. When Nebula sits down and Rocket just grabs her hand. Like, that is a really important scene because they hated each other. Like, Nebula was evil. Like, I need to get Thanos on my good side. I need to anything to say that I'm the best daughter. And Rocket was all about money, and like he hated Nebula. They hate each other, and now they're like holding hands.
Yeah.
It's really.
And their story became about finding those people that they cared about. When like in the last movies, they didn't care about anybody at all.
Yeah, each of the Guardians had like Quill didn't really care. He's off on his own, just wanted to make money as well. Rocket and Groot, they were together. Gamora was with Thanos, and Drax was in prison, I think. And all he wanted to do was avenge his daughter and wife.
Yeah.
So they were all fighting for themselves in some way, shape, or form. And then
they
realized
their family.
Their family, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what really, like, that's the whole tone of the MCU, because there's always issues with finding your family and keeping your family.
Yeah.
So with Iron Man, he was struggling as a kid to find who his dad is and what his dad is, like the relationship that he's supposed to have with his dad. And I mean, coming from a very rich family, he was always kind of a hand's length away from his dad. He wasn't like really connected to him. And then he realized, I think when he had that conversation, when he went back in 1970 in Endgame, he realized what fatherhood is really about and all the stuff that his dad actually has taught him, either, you know, directly or indirectly. And even in Iron Man 2, when he's talking, he's looking at those recordings, those reels, and he sees his dad and he just sees him talking to him. And he's like, you know, Tony, you are my greatest creation. He sees that too. And he's like, okay, I am meant for something. And my dad realized that I'm meant for something. And I think that's the best gift you could really give, I think, from a father or a parent to a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what he was. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, say, but like relating to family, I think the beautiful thing is why I love going to see every Marvel movie opening night in theater is because everyone is there for the same reason. And you're sitting there in a packed theater, and for some reason it doesn't feel like you're by a stranger because everyone has grown with you. Everyone has seen this with you. We laugh at the same thing. We cry at the same thing. We're shocked at the same thing. And it's just like to see their reaction the same as yours. It's like we're on the same level. It's not just like we're seeing, I don't know, any blockbuster movie or like any spy movie or anything. It's this long journey that we've all been on for the past 10 years. And probably some people you've been in the same theater with multiple times, but you don't even know.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that Marvel has. I don't know if they did it intentionally, but they have made a family among people in different communities in a theater in different towns.
Exactly. Yeah, because you go in there, you're like, okay, I'm at the same point as everybody else, because let's say you go in to see Endgame, I've seen all the other 21 movies, and I could easily talk to the person next to me about, you know, for hours about what's going to happen on this screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could bond over that.
Yeah, and another great thing is the end credit scenes, because when they happen, some people are like, "What?" and some people are like, "Oh my god, no way, this is happening!" And they kind of look at each other and like, "Wait, what's going on?" And they kind of piece together what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
to build that anticipation again.
and like it comes from the more casual viewers, or like I just love seeing the Marvel movies in the theaters. It's like one of my
Mhm.
pastimes. To even like the hardcore, like the comics fanatics, or they're like, and it's not like it's a community where they just don't want you there. Like the comics people will say, "Oh man, do you see that thing that happened in the end credit scene? This connects to this comic and this comic, so they could take it that way or that way." And
Yeah.
you just build a relationship because you're like, "I want to tell you all about this stuff, and I want you to explore, and then just see it with me happen on screen."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that's really cool about it. It's just everyone wants to be involved. Like we don't want to be segregated. We want to bring more and more and more people into the family.
Yeah, because that's the more of the people that you get in your, because the thing is that there's always a next thing. I think that's the biggest, and also a big thing that's just kind of not as talked about when Marvel just ends movies with you know um the Guardians will return or Thanos will return or whatever. It shows that there's something next, and you're like, I
Yeah.
love this experience and I don't want it to end. It's happening. It's gonna, I'm gonna live with this experience. It's not just one and done,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think is another important thing. Because if you think about this as a series, like a like a regular TV series, it's gone on for 22 movies and 10 years. What other
Yeah.
series have gone on for 10 years and been
Successfully
successfully? Yeah.
for 10 years.
And just grown and grown and grown. I mean, Avengers Endgame, the latest movie out of 22, is the highest grossing, the biggest movie.
Yeah, the biggest opening. It's surpassed, well, so far it's surpassed Titanic, and now they're guessing it might surpass Avatar in the coming
Yeah.
days. It's ridiculous.
And Avengers Endgame, if you look at it, it's technically it's Avengers 4. It's the fourth movie in the Avengers franchise.
Yeah.
And you think about it, because shouldn't movies just keep getting progressively worse if you just look at like the every other movie out there, the origin story, whatever movie one is like really good, and then they go and make
Mhm.
movie 2 and it's kind of not, it doesn't hold up to like movie 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's happened, in the MCU, with Iron Man 2 didn't hold up to like the original, but still, I
Mhm.
mean, they're still all good movies. But there are some instances where, okay, like, oh, the best one is Thor and Thor: The Dark World, where it's not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It was a good movie, it just wasn't the best among all the Thors.
yeah, it
Um,
just was kind of lacking with a
but
villain
you, but
and
you can
things like
say the
that.
same for the Avengers. Like Avenger, the first one was the welcoming, the bringing together, and then Age of Ultron. It was good. It set up everything coming forth.
Yeah, and that's the
But
thing.
it
That's because everybody says Age of Ultron is the worst Avengers, but I don't know why I just love
it's
that movie
not.
so much.
Yeah, it's
It's
not. It's
so
not.
good.
Yeah. I think it's really.
What Joss Whedon had to do at that point, where he had to set up uh movies for 4 years. Like we just
Yeah.
paid off Avengers,
Yeah.
Age of Ultron,
And
Avengers
he
2.
didn't, and the way Joss did it, he didn't just like shove information in our faces, but he did it beautifully. He told a story, a good plot line, and
Yeah,
he introduced Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver momentarily.
yeah,
But it built
and
up,
Vision.
and Vision. I forgot about Vision. Yeah, Vision,
Yeah,
who was really important in Infinity War.
yeah, and he even set up the love story between Vision and Scarlet Witch, where he flew down into the train near the end, and he picked her up. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just had a connection there, and you're like, that was like a scene that lasted like a half a second, but you could like, okay, you could build a relationship, the love story that happened in Infinity War,
Yeah.
4 years later.
That was a parallel that I noticed actually when we were watching Infinity War in the train station, and when she's carrying Vision and setting him down, it's like a parallel to the Age of Ultron when he carries her
Oh
off the
yeah,
train. I was like,
oh
"Is anyone else
yeah,
noticing this?"
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was
yeah,
really interesting.
and you can see the character progression right there.
And
How those were,
they also preceded the love story from uh the first Avengers. Remember when Black Widow's trying to get Bruce Banner on board?
yeah.
And then they kind of continued that in Age of Ultron. Some people
Oh
say that love is a little forced, but I think it was kind of something that you didn't expect to happen. But I think it was placed fine. Like I don't think they did anything just to pull it out of the air. You know?
no, I don't think so either. I think that what it is that with Hulk, there's like an inner anger that he has, and this
Yeah.
anger is controlling him. So what was I saying? So what it is that Hulk that has an inner anger that he has, and it's just like taking over him, and he's trying to always defeat that anger, and he's trying to hide it with by hiding the Hulk, and it's very visible when you see the Hulk because you're like, okay, I'm angry, I'm always angry. Remember
Yeah.
with Black Widow, I feel like she also has that anger, and it's also I think for Hulk it's directed towards himself because I feel for Bruce Banner because he did it to himself and he was like that was his failure
Mm-hmm.
for like failing that experiment and making that mistake. But for Black Widow, it's directed towards the outside, and because people have wronged her, like her dad put her in the school that for assassins, or I'm not exactly sure,
Yeah.
but the that
It's the one that's like psychological dormant to make you into this like kind of stone cold assassin, basically.
exactly, yeah. So that and they've both had been wronged either by the South, like they made their own wrong, or somebody else did them wrong. But when it comes down to it, they're both just angry,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both angry at the world, and they hide it. So I feel that's the connection that they share, because who else are you going to share that connection with among the people that you talk to all the time and the people that you interact with, this family that you create with the original 6 Avengers.
Yeah.
And I think it is organic.
Yeah, because I think Hulk and Black Widow, at one point, they both said, I think I'm better alone. I think Hulk said in Age of Ultron, he said, I think better alone. I'm better off alone because that way I don't hurt people. But then after all that time, they're like, maybe it's not great to be alone. Maybe like we're alone and we're lonely. It's different to be alone and then be lonely. But the two of them are so isolated from the world because they're so afraid of losing people. That's all they ever known.
That's
And then
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and then in Endgame, they're like, you know what? No, we're a family. So they had a good, uh, individually and together, they had a really good character arc and development there.
Yeah, because I think when it comes down to Endgame, where I mean, in Infinity War, was still that awkward phase. Remember where they go back to the compound, Steve Rogers, Scarlet Witch, and what's her name? They bring Vision. They bring Vision. Remember, they're trying to save him. They bring him back to the
Yeah, yeah,
compound, and then Rhodey
yeah.
is there talking to the give me the name of the
Senator
committee.
Ross? No,
Yeah,
no, not
Senator
Ross.
Ross. Yeah, Senator Ross. Yeah, you're right.
Senator Ross?
Secretary Ross.
Secretary Ross.
Yeah, Secretary Ross. Okay. So Rhodey's talking to Secretary Ross about something, and then the Avengers, the secret Avengers, come in now, and then Scarlet Johansson, Black Widow, Natasha, and Hulk and Bruce Banner have this little interaction. Remember, Falcon says, "Wow, this is awkward."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And there's still like the awkward sort of relationship. Is it going to be a relationship? No relationship between them two at that point in Avengers Infinity War. And then in Endgame, with that time jump, you see there's something had happened between the two, because for 18 months Hulk was working on being, or Bruce Banner was working on being the Hulk and matching the brain of Bruce Banner to the body of Hulk.
Yeah, so they can coexist rather than like you have your turn and I'll have my turn.
Exactly. So he was trying to solve the thing that made him most angry in life,
Which was himself.
which was himself. Yeah, his failure to do the
Mhm.
thing, to isolate gamma rays and whatever, make the serum basically that that created Captain America, which was
Yeah.
kind of hinted at in Avengers, the first Avengers.
Mhm.
And then in terms of Scarlet Witch, in terms of Natasha Romanoff with Black Panther, Black Panther. In terms of Natasha Romanoff with Black Widow, she was trying to solve her anger by keeping the family together in Endgame after the 5-year jump,
Yeah.
keeping the world together. Because
I
she's like,
think I think her sacrifice, it's easier to kind of her sacrifice to be like overshadowed by the loss of Iron Man and then the passing on of the shield, Captain America to Falcon. But her
mhm,
sacrifice was really crucial and fundamental to the rest of the plot. Because
yeah,
had she not sacrificed, she not done what she did, then how would they have gotten the Soul Stone?
yeah,
And it kind of broke my heart that the scene where Peter Parker, he hands the gauntlet over to Captain Marvel and he's like, I don't know how you're gonna get through all that, and then all the
mhm,
Marvel women are walking. I was like, I feel so bad that Natasha who'd been in this franchise for 10 years, didn't get a chance to walk among with all those women.
Yeah.
You know, I was
I mean,
kind
she
of
did
like,
give him the chance to do that though, because she brought them all
right,
back.
exactly.
Yeah. And she kind of started it off, and she went from the sort of kind of sexy receptionist spy sort of character to super strong leader in the Avengers. And sometimes, she, as a leader, she made the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, and she allowed something like that to happen, where now we're getting more and more. Like, if you look at it in terms of the MCU, not in terms of what, like, the storyline, you're getting more and more diversity into the stories, and more people experiencing themselves on the screen, on the big screen. And that scene that you're referencing with all the women are getting the Infinity Gauntlet to the van is a big scene. And some say it's like awkwardly placed or something like that. But why? I mean, everybody wants to see themselves on screen, and why not have it there where it's a big moment and they have to get the Infinity Gauntlet to the thing? It's not going out of its way to be super hyper whatever. It's just saying, these people are trying to they have an objective. These are the people that are going to do it, and they're all going to work together to defeat the alien Chitauri and the Thanos's army to get there.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back to the idea of family, because a lot of those people, not just the women in that scene, but just overall, as soon as those portals opened up, a good portion of them didn't even know each other, yet they were still fighting for each other and defending each other, because they all had one common goal, like, we have to win this for each other.
Yeah.
For everything that we've lost. So that's also really,
and that's a really epic scene. That's one of the best scenes.
I think that's one of the greatest fight scenes. I don't know how you top that. Like, not only just Marvel, but like in like superhero films coming forward, like Marvel, DC. Like, I don't know how you top something like that. It's everyone was there. It was really brilliant. Like, everyone was there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, except for Black Widow and Vision. But
it had a perfect setup, with
perfect setup. It was beautiful.
You get that awesome splash screen where it's Steve Rogers and he's facing, like, it's kind of looks like a sort of like almost like a biblical sort of thing that should be on a temple, where it's like one against the many evil.
Especially when Valkyrie comes on the Pegasus. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, those scenes in Thor Ragnarok like that were really.
They were really great. Yeah, and I'm really glad they brought it back for Endgame.
Oh yeah, the Pegasus. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to talk about Captain America for a second.
We do.
Because Captain America, is my favorite, and he will always be my favorite. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, Captain America. He has, like Iron Man, one of the greatest character developments as well.
Which is a weird character development, because his morals are, like, his character virtues are already, like, at peak. Like, they're already very good.
Because I think I forgot what the name of the doctor in the first Captain America, but he said, "Promise me that you won't be a good soldier, but also a good man." And that's something, and that's why the serum worked, was because his intentions were pure. What was it, Project Rebirth? I think that's what it was called. That's why it worked, because he was such a warm-hearted, pure guy, and he knows how to fight for other people. But I think that's also one of his flaws, that he doesn't know how to live outside a uniform.
Exactly. And he doesn't know how to not fight for other people. Like he said in Civil War, he's like, remember, he says, when I see a situation pointed south, I can't help but intervene.
Yeah,
and then Iron Man said, I can't ignore it. And then he's like, sometimes I wish I can. And then Iron Man,
yeah. Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth, something like that.
But we need you, yeah. And he says, oh no, he says, sometimes I wish I don't. And then Iron Man says, no, you don't. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I don't. It's like he
sometimes,
just he just wants to, like, fight for people.
Yeah. And I think the friendship between Captain America and Iron Man is also a good development, because they're opposites of each other, and at the end they become like Iron Man becomes kind of Captain America's morals, and Captain America becomes kind of Iron Man's morals in a sense.
Yeah, they're foils. They're foil each other. Yeah, and they've kind of they've gone on parallel journeys, like parallel but opposite journeys. Because Captain America knew nothing but fighting for somebody else, and for fighting inside a uniform, for fighting for some greater cause, But then in the end of Endgame, he's like, I want to take something for myself because
Yeah.
I've earned it.
I think he said one of his last lines was like, I thought I'd try that life Tony told me to get.
Yeah.
Something along that line. And I was like, it's not selfish at that point. At that point, it's like, yeah, you've lived your life fighting for us. It's almost fair for you to go and try to find yourself outside of Captain America. It's sad to obviously see him go, but it's the reality of it. And then with Iron Man, he lived for himself, and at the end, he was like,
he died fighting for everybody else.
I think in the first Avengers, Iron Man or Tony Stark had told Steve Rogers, like, everything special about you came out of a bottle. And then Captain America, before Iron Man said that, Captain America said something along the lines of, you're not the kind of guy who will lay down in the wild and let the other guy crawl over you. And at the end, in Endgame, they proved both of those things wrong.
They did.
I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah. Captain America kept fighting and he showed that he just can't stop fighting for the little guy.
Yeah.
And then Iron Man showed that he can make the ultimate sacrifice when it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another really cool scene that obviously wasn't just like my only favorite scene. The scene where Captain America lifted Thor's hammer. I can't pronounce it. Is it Mjolnir?
Mjolnir. I pronounce it Mjolnir.
Mjolnir? All right. Yeah. However people pronounce it.
Some people say Mjolnir.
Some people pronounce the J. I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to pronounce the J.
No, I don't think you're supposed to pronounce it. But Mjolnir also sounds good because it's an O.
Thor's hammer. We're gonna go with Thor's hammer.
Thor's hammer.
The hammer. He lifted the hammer, and like just that scene was so incredible because in the beginning you're like, wait, is it? Because I remember Eleni was sitting next to me, and she thought it was Captain Marvel that lifted it. Because she has the Infinity Stone in her, like Vision did, and Vision was able to lift the hammer, so she figured, like, oh, okay, it's Captain Marvel, like this is her entrance, and I was like, no, it's not that, and some were like, oh, it's Iron Man, because I think he was behind Thor trying to recover, and then I was like, I don't, because I was thinking about Age of Ultron when the hammer shifted, and I was like, did Captain America, and then he stopped, like he put his hands up. Like, did he stop or did he just realize, I can't do it?
Yeah.
Because
that's the thing too. It's like, did he just go and he's like, he instantly felt like, okay, I could lift this hammer right now.
Yeah.
And he just like stops. He's like, okay, I can't, take this away from from Thor.
I don't know.
Or was he just like, he just couldn't do it?
It could be that, but it also kind of reminded me of in the first Thor, when Odin stripped Thor of his power, he said that you can lift it again when you, those who possess the power of Thor can lift the hammer, right?
Yeah.
And Thor wasn't worthy because he had all this like inner turmoil. So I'm thinking maybe in Age of Ultron, if he couldn't have picked it up and if he didn't stop himself, then maybe it's because he had all this thing going on when he knew what Bucky did to Tony's parents, and he had all these inner secrets and inner struggles that he wasn't worthy yet because he still had to let go of a lot of things.
Because when did he find out about Tony's parents? Oh, he found out in Winter Soldier, right?
Was it in Winter Soldier?
Yeah, I think because remember when he and Black Widow went down into the bunker?
Oh yeah,
at the base.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I think that's when he found. Oh, is because it was like, oh, I remember the doctor. He was like, sometimes accidents happen, and then it shows Howard Stark dead, and then it shows like the picture of the Winter Soldier or Bucky.
Yeah. So I think that's why if you're going with the theory that he wasn't worthy yet, I think that's why. But you can also say that he stopped himself from lifting the hammer.
Yeah.
But then in Endgame, when he lifted it, that was like the ultimate.
I like the theory that he wasn't worthy yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if he was eternally, because he didn't do everything right, and you saw that in Civil War. He tried to keep everybody in line, but sometimes you just have to tell the truth. And he learned that in Civil War, and he's like, you know what? Sometimes you just have to tell the truth and say, this is how it has to be. And you know what, Tony, this is what happened. I know he's my best friend, but this is what he did.
Yeah.
And how do we go about dealing with this? And he learned that. He learned that lesson. And I think that's the reason that, after Civil War, They come back together because after Civil War, they didn't see each other until Tony came back from the spaceship.
Right. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the time jump was between Infinity War and Endgame though.
The Civil War took place at the
Or
same
Civil
time.
War, yeah.
Yeah, Civil War took place at the same time. Like, so it came out in 2016. It took place in 2016, but that's when Spider-Man: Homecoming the next year in 2017 kind of messed up the timeline. And in before the time jump in, wait, hold on.
Endgame had the 5-year time jump.
Endgame had the 5-year time jump, but I think at that point in Endgame it was 2023 before the time jump. Yeah. So when Tony landed down, it was 2023. So it's roughly like 7 years since they've seen each other.
Really?
I think
I
so.
feel like it's a long time.
I feel like that's a long time too.
I thought it was Civil War, and then because Spider-Man: Homecoming picked up moments after Civil War,
Yeah.
so they were still kind of in the same time zone there. So I don't think there was a time jump between Civil War and Spider-Man: Homecoming. And then
I feel like Homecoming rewrote the timeline of, because up until Homecoming, every movie was so like if the movie came out in 2011, all the stuff that happened,
2011, yeah.
it was 2011, yeah. But I don't know if it was because because remember in the first, was it the first? No, the second Iron Man, where Peter Parker is the little boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they rewrote the timeline in that one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
To make him age appropriate. I think that's how that worked, because in that one he would have been, let's say he was a real boy, like 16 in 2010, and they do it like 2023. I think a 4-year time jump to 2021.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not sure what the timeline is all.
Now I'm messing myself up.
Either way, Captain America and Iron Man hadn't seen each other in a very long. And the first thing he goes in, he's like, I lost the kid.
I love that was the first thing he said, because you can really feel like, I failed. Like I really failed. Because in Spider-Man: Homecoming he said, and if anything happened to you, I feel like that's on me.
Yeah.
And something happened to him. And
it
partially was on Iron Man, but it obviously wasn't, because there were so many moments where they could have stopped Thanos. Yeah. But they didn't.
And then Captain America, he just comes back and he just says, we lost. He's like, Tony, we lost.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't lose. Because at that moment, I think like Tony is still thinking of himself. Because he's like, it's on me. It's me. It's me. It's me. And even though his things are right, like his idea, or his head is pointing in the right direction, like towards doing right, and towards, like, let's say, teaching Spider-Man to be a good person, not like him. Mm-hmm. He's still thinking of everything in terms of himself. He's not thinking about everybody else.
But I think he's doing that because at that point the Avengers are broken. After Infinity War, after Civil War, Captain America lays down his shield because Tony says, you don't deserve it. My father made that shield. So at that point they're broken. That's why he didn't say we lost. He said, I lost the kid. And then later on in Endgame, he said, in Age of Ultron, I think Captain America said, if we lose, we'll do that. We'll do that together too.
Yeah.
And they didn't lose together in Tony's perspective, because Captain America wasn't there to help him.
Yeah.
He was there to help him fight. Like I don't think he knew that what was going on in Wakanda. Obviously, there's no way of him knowing that.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, maybe they told him, but in that scene where he was like, Tony Stark looked very sickly. Yeah. He was in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he's like, remember, I wanted a suit of armor around the world. Then you all said, no, we had to defeat Ultron, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe this could have prevented that. And he's been struggling with anxiety about this thing that's going to happen, and it happened. And like half the world is gone.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he doesn't know. He's like, is it my fault? It is his. He's like, he puts it on himself, but is it also Captain America's fault? Because he's like, you weren't there, Captain. You weren't there, Steve. We didn't lose together. We lost light years apart.
Yeah.
I lost on a planet, thousands of miles away from Earth. We maybe if we were together, we could have fought a winning battle.
And they did at the end. Just goes to
Yeah, in the
show.
end game they did. Yeah, yeah. But that's what the great thing it is that there is between those two characters, Iron Man and Captain America, that they created them and turned them into foils. And I think it's most apparent that they're foils in Civil War, and they just kept building that since then. And they were building that indirectly because between Civil War and let's say Infinity War, when they both reappeared, they didn't have any of their own movies. There wasn't like an Iron Man 4 or Captain America 4.
That's right. There wasn't.
Their movies were just played out. I mean, their ideas were just played out across other movies. And you could still tell in those movies the dichotomy between the two characters, the idea of like one being the selfish turning selfless, and one being the selfless looking towards himself a little bit more. And then they really show that in Endgame. And I think that's the most logical progression to their characters. So when Iron Man dies and when Captain America passes the shield, I feel like their stories are done. Because where can you go like after that?
I still don't want to accept that because we've grown up with RDJ and Chris Evans, but obviously
it felt very real in the
did.
Spider-Man trailer, because it was like, okay, and Endgame you're like, okay, I can't accept this, but like, then the movie ends, like 10 minutes later, and you're like,
yeah. I loved the way Endgame ended, by the way.
Yeah.
With the dance, you don't expect an action movie to end with a beautiful, a romantic, emotional dance, because it wasn't just like, oh, that's cute, they're dancing. Like, if you follow the MCU, you know what that dance means to him.
Oh yeah.
Like, in the first Avenger, he said, I like, don't miss the dance, and then she says, a week from Saturday, don't you dare be late. And then obviously he goes under the ice. And then Winter Soldier, when he's visiting her in the hospital, he said, I couldn't leave my best girl, not when I still owe her that dance. And then in Civil War, she passed away. And you can see like the heartbreak in his face that he never got the chance. And then in Endgame, it was just like, if you don't keep up, you have no idea how much that scene means to not only Steve Rogers, but like to the audience. Of like, that was like an amazing scene.
Yeah.
That he finally got the chance to be with the one person he's wanted to be with for his entire life, that he finally got the chance to.
And the biggest action movie of the year ends with a dance and a song from the 40s.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else noticed this. Another parallel side note, that's the same song that was playing in Winter Soldier when Nick Fury was shot by the Winter Soldier, by Bucky.
Oh, really?
Did you notice? Yeah, when Sharon is like, by the way, I think your radio is still on. And he opens the door and he sees Nick Fury. That's the song that's playing. So I was like, did he have this song picked out? Like, that's so sad.
Oh, like he was listening to it and like just imagining the last dance.
Yeah.
Like the dance that they could have had, like the life that they could have had.
That's really sad.
That is really sad to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
another parallel. There's so many parallels in this movie that you can only catch if you've been following along.
Yeah, like from the beginning, and even like the ending of the original Iron Man, where I am Iron Man, and you're like the top thing that a superhero does is never reveal their identity, and then at the end of your origin story, right before you cut the credits, he's like, I am Iron Man. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah. You're like, why would you? Like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the only identity that's kept secret is Peter Parker's. Everyone else knows who they are. The world knows who they are, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know who else would be.
Because I was thinking, oh, Hawkeye, but no, he had the ankle bracelet on because he's on house arrest, so they know him. And Ant-Man, they know. I think
Ant-Man, they don't really care. I mean, like if you look at the scene in Endgame, it's like, okay, and like nobody really knows. Like, it's not like everybody knows who Ant-Man is, like the person, but nobody really like knows Ant-Man because he's not very popular.
By the way, Ant-Man was a crucial character in Endgame.
Yeah.
Without Ant-Man, a lot of people were saying that the hero of Endgame was the rat that stepped on the thing.
The rat, or the thing is, I know we talked about this before, but just to bring it out, like this theory with the mouse stepping on the thing and basically the mouse or the rat saving the whole universe, was that the mouse or like the rat or the mouse, I don't know, I think it was most likely a rat, but people are saying it could be like a mouse, because
Mhm.
if you associate it as a mouse, you can think of Disney or Mickey Mouse. And you're like, Disney saved Marvel by buying them out in 2009 or 2010. Um, and saving them and funding them and giving them giving them all their characters, well, not all, but most of their characters back, and just kind of supporting them that way, and in
Yeah.
turning what was like almost like something that was dying, because Marvel was just selling off all their properties. They sold off Spider-Man, like their biggest character, to stay afloat. And then they
Yeah.
started a universe, like a whole cinematic universe with a character named Iron Man from the comics that, I mean, it really wasn't like, now he's a big character in the comics, but he was just kind of like a B, sort of like B-list character in Marvel. I mean, the Marvel's like, bread and butter was Spider-Man, and he's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Like, who do you make a movie with? And they started with Iron Man, and they tried to make Iron Man cool, and they did make Iron Man cool. I think he's like really cool, like just like the whole persona, like driving the Audis, with the cool house and stuff like that. They turned Iron Man
Mhm.
into that cool character that everybody wanted to be. And then Captain America comes along, and they turned Captain America into that super patriotic, very moral, virtuous character that everybody wants to be.
Yeah, like the real leader of the
The leader,
Avengers.
yeah. And then I think now, like, it's weird how this has worked out. I don't know if it's planned by Marvel or what, but it was in the beginning, it was kind of Iron Man's, and his arc has kind of been a lot of the, because he's been in 9 of the 22. So there's been a lot of Iron Man, but it feels like they're like peaks of these characters where Iron Man kind of sets the whole thing off, and then as we head towards Civil War, it's kind of Captain America. A lot of people are picking up speed towards Captain America, and now I think, especially after Thor Ragnarok, like Thor is like building up a lot of just popularity, and he's changed the whole character from kind of being like that side, like, oh, he's super powerful, he's a god, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to listen to Romeo and Juliet or like some sort of
I was gonna
Shakespearean.
say, I was gonna say, if you watch the first Thor and then Endgame or I think Thor Ragnarok moreover, you
Mhm.
see him go from this like I mean, I think even in the first Avengers, he tells Loki like, "Oh, brother, something from what suits you ill," and I'm like, "What does that even mean?" And like
Yeah,
they're just talking all Shakespearean and all with their capes and everything, and
yeah,
and I'm just like, okay, he is Thor. Like this is cool. It's an odd character. It's unique. It's interesting. But then at one point in Thor: The Dark World, I think Chris Hemsworth said, I kind of grew tired of myself. And then
yeah.
in Thor Ragnarok, they destroyed his hammer. They shaved his head. They destroyed Asgard. They killed off. Who did they kill off in Ragnarok?
His dad,
The
Odin,
warriors. Yeah, the Warriors 3. Um, were killed off. So
Odin.
Odin, yeah, they completely scratched Thor 1 and 2, and they
Yeah.
remade Thor, which I think was a great idea because everyone else was kind of being remade. Why not remake him too?
Yeah,
And,
and remake a character that, like, one of, like, they say that are the core 3. I feel like Iron Man and Captain America have been, like, the top 2, and then
yeah,
Thor has been kinda like a side 3rd, but I feel like now Thor is, because, I mean, he's not done.
no, he's not.
He's
He's
still
just chilling
going.
with the Guardians now.
He's chilling with the Guardians now,
And I
and
also loved his look in Endgame.
that's the thing too. I feel like, because in Endgame, it's the most logical progression for his character, and I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean, okay, a lot of it was played off as a joke, with like Lebowski and stuff like that, and he
Mhm.
was kind of sleeping, wanting Bloody Marys, the thing,
Yeah.
very very fun, but that's what Marvel does. Marvel does humor, but when it comes down to it, that humor comes from something,
It's
because
his pain is really logical, like, to
yeah,
lose he lost everything, he doesn't have anything left, he lost his well, he still has people of Asgard, but he lost his brother, his best friend, his 3 warriors, his dad, his mom,
hmm,
his both of his or one of his love interests, Valkyrie was, like, on the fence in the first, or in Thor Ragnarok, but, it makes sense why he will kinda descend down that downward spiral. And
yeah,
I really like the fact that I saw this, not a theory, but it's like review of it, and they're like, Thor has been through so much and his character has changed, but he's still worthy enough to lead and to take control and to fight for what's right, even though he's been going through all this terrible, terrible stuff.
yeah, yeah, and because in the end he still fought Thanos, and he was still
Yeah.
worthy to lift the hammer, Mjolnir, and to lift Stormbreaker. he's still worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, just because he has a physical change, he's gained weight and he's, like his hair is longer and stuff like that, doesn't mean that it makes him any less of a person, or, I mean, in his case, a god.
Yeah, I really like that scene. Also, like, I think it's an overlooked scene when Bruce and Rocket are going to visit him, and
Mhm.
Korg and Meek are playing Fortnite on the
Yeah.
sofa,
Mhm.
and Thor is talking about whatever he's talking about, and then Bruce says, "We know how to stop Thanos. We know how to fix what Thanos has done." And it's
Yeah.
just like a face change. Like, it's like night and day of an expression from Thor being all smiley to all like, "Oh, why'd you remind me?" And
Yeah.
like, I was trying so hard to forget, and then he kind of grabs Bruce, and then Bruce is like, "Get your hand off of me," in such a
Mhm.
like, not like a mean way, but such a like, "I'm here for you, but get your hand off of me."
Yeah.
Um,
I
and I
I
think
think
that
I think what it is like, get your hand off of me, and stand up for yourself, because then
yeah,
right
and
after
stop
he's
leaning
like,
on me. Yeah.
"Stop leaning on me." Yeah. Because then after he does the same thing, he says, like, they kind of flip the roles from Ragnarok, where instead of Thor helping Hulk, Bruce Banner or Hulk helps Thor. You're like, somebody has to be there for you, and I'm here for you because you were there
Mhm.
for me. That's what Bruce
Yeah.
Banner tells Hulk, or Bruce Banner tells Thor.
Yeah, it's another parallel.
And those characters have kind of gone on like similar journeys, but um, since Ragnarok, because they've also been the two strongest Avengers, try to deal with that power. And that's what Thor is like. Thor, his like, if Iron Man's struggle is being the center of attention, and Captain America's struggle is trying to live for himself and outside of the uniform, Thor's struggle is to live within his own powers, and he's confused about like what it means to rule. And even though he bashes Loki about in the first Avengers, like, oh, you don't know how to rule, or you don't know what it means to rule. Thor doesn't either. I think it comes from that sort of place where he's like, I don't know how to lead a people. I mean, I'm super powerful and I know like how to follow and I know how to be part of a team, but I don't know how to lead a people and be, take into account all these things. And it doesn't say anything bad about his character. It just says what he's not. And
Yeah.
he was been forced into that position by Odin, of course, his dad, king of Asgard. And near the end in Endgame, he's like, you know what? I want to live for myself. I'm not gonna live to what did his mother say. I'm not gonna live
Um,
to who who I'm meant to be. To who I
well,
am, or to how did
yeah.
she say it?
Well, I'm slipping on what you're saying, but one thing that I really like about what the interaction between Thor and his mother was that part where, well, obviously when they first reunite, he's like sobbing at this point because he sees his mother. What's his mother's name?
Freya.
Freya. Thank you. And she tells him it's okay to fail, or what makes you a hero is not like how few times you fail, but it's how you overcome your failure, how you live with your failure.
Yeah.
And Thor is not living with his failure. He's obviously he's depressed and he's spiraling. And then he learns that, and he's like, and the part where he calls the hammer to get the hammer back, I think that's also overlooked because he says, "I'm still worthy." Like,
Yeah.
I'm still worthy of the hammer, and
Yeah.
that kind of, like, made me a little sad because, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're still worthy even though you're going through this, yeah, you're still worthy.
And that's also another thing, the scene that was kind of played off as a joke where he gets the hammer back and he's kind of like waiting, and oh, it sometimes takes a little bit. And then he gets it and he just smiles. He's like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
He just smiles and you're like, that's like a huge thing for him.
Mhm.
That's like, his hammer was destroyed in Ragnarok, and ever since Ragnarok, he's been struggling to find who he is. And like, this is one sign that says, you know what, you're going to be okay. Especially after
Yeah.
the talk with his mom.
Yeah, there was, like, just so many emotional scenes in there that you can't talk about every single scene in however long we have, but it's just so incredible how they were able to incorporate all these things in a 3-hour movie. I think it should
Yeah.
have been longer, but I thought it was really, really, really
Yeah. I
amazing.
mean, on first viewing, you can't really tell it's 3 hours, but you could tell it's a long
No, you
movie.
can't. Yeah, because someone said a reviewer said halfway through the movie you start to feel the 3 hours, but I'm like, I never felt it.
No.
I never felt it, and they were like, "Oh my god, make sure you go to the bathroom," but, like, you can hold in your urine for, like, 8 hours on a school day. Why can't you hold it in for 3 hours?
Yeah.
That first of all was like, "What?" Um,
Yeah.
the first one
Because then even Kevin Feige came out and he's like, you know, forget about the runtime. Focus on the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I mean, we saw it twice in theaters, and the second time we saw it, we were still as antsy about it because we knew what was gonna
Yeah.
happen, obviously.
And especially
But
and that second time it felt faster.
it did, and we still didn't feel it. I still didn't feel the 3 hours. It was like, "Oh, it's over? Come on."
Yeah. But what Endgame feels like though like in itself, it feels like it is a bunch of movies tied together. And when we really talk about it, it feels like it's not really a movie. It's like an experience. Like you sit down and you just let it happen to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I really liked the way that they did all the time jumps. It was kinda like a homage, like a goodbye, like, "Remember this moment? Remember that moment? Okay, now here." Like, remember this, remember that, and
Mhm.
that which also goes back to my point that if you didn't watch or didn't keep up with all the Marvel movies as they came out chronologically in theaters, then you wouldn't have been like, when especially when it said, like, New York 2012, I think, the whole audience was like, "Oh my god, the Battle of New York with
Yeah.
Chitauri." But then if you didn't, you're just like, "What's happening? Like, what is this battle?"
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
you can still appreciate like, wow, this is a really cool scene, like everything that's happening,
Yeah.
but there's just so much more because I think this movie Endgame was built for the fans, like people that have been keeping up. Because if you've at least seen like the origin story of each person, of each like superhero, it's like instantly like 100% better. If you've seen everything, it's like 1,000% better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like a movie where it just connects. It's like it's the pinnacle of what it could have been. Like it couldn't have been better. I mean, it closed off two like superpower characters in Iron Man and Captain America, and it's set up again. Like I mean, oh, and Black Widow. Black Widow is also her story, but I think she still has a prequel coming. So the thing is that she's still gone though, but it's going to be a prequel and I maybe like a prequel series, like just to
Mhm.
tell more of her story. So she's not going to be like in like moving
The next,
forward.
yeah, yeah, moving forward.
Yeah. Um, so it closed off their stories, and then it opened up more. So now Thor, we said, is with the Guardians, and he's most likely going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or as Guardians of the Galaxy, and
Which I think is
Hulk,
really cool.
yeah, and Hulk. I mean, we don't really know exactly where his story is going, but now he's Professor Hulk, and
Yeah, with the
there's more
permanent arm damage.
with permanent arm damage. Is it permanent? I don't know.
I read that it was permanent. It makes
Oh,
sense why it is permanent because there was a lot of. I mean, it killed
yeah.
Tony and it ruined Thanos' arm, who's a demigod. Why wouldn't it hurt him? You
Yeah,
know?
and Thanos had the whole Infinity Gauntlet. He had like the Stark,
Yeah, that's true.
nanotech gauntlet. Um, and then the other Avenger that we really haven't touched on a lot yet is Hawkeye, because Hawkeye
Hawkeye. Yeah.
is now moving into his own series with his daughter most likely, and her becoming Hawkeye. While I mean, most likely he is just kind of living life as a family man because in those 5 years in Endgame, Hawkeye was, like, lost. I mean, he, like, lost it, but he was
He
also
did.
lost.
Yeah. He was hunting down bad people that survived the snap, and you felt really bad that he was resorting to. He was really distracting himself from everything that he lost.
Yeah,
But he was doing it in such a unhealthy and horrible
because
way.
it's like, when you think about it, you're like, "Hey, Hawkeye, why not just go back to the Avengers and say, 'Hey, guys, what's going on? Like, what happened?'"
Yeah.
Why would you go out and be by yourself? But I think that's really his whole character is, you can really describe it by the quote I think it was in the first Avengers where he's like, "Oh, the Hawk," or it was, I think, Dr. Selvig?
Yeah, Eric Selvig, yeah.
Eric Selvig, he says the hawk, oh, he's up in his nest and he's just kind of hiding away, like at the top of like a really tall, like uh, on the building, like a rafter,
Mhm.
and you're just like you could just see from that moment. what Hawkeye really is. He does look from the sidelines, and he's just kind of
Yeah.
observing.
He's like alone and
And
secluded, which is what created that really big shock factor in Age of Ultron when the safe house was his home with his family and his wife. He's like,
yeah,
wait a minute, I did not expect this at all because you're so standoffish.
exactly. And that's the whole scene was like something that Joss Whedon wanted to push
Mm-hmm.
to show that, hey, this character is like, he's not so like alone and lost. I mean, he's got his own, and he knows what it's like to be a father figure in a family. And that's what remember, he's having the conversation with his wife. She says to him, like, I'm scared for you. And he's like, why are you scared? Because, like, you see those gods down there. And I think they're looking at Iron Man, Captain America. You're like, you're scared, like they don't need me because I'm just, Hawkeye, the guy with the bow.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, no, I'm scared that they do. And you really lose that because you feel like Hawkeye's kind of the guy that's left out from the Avengers, kind of on the sidelines, but he's really an integral part of it.
Yeah, and he was the reason that Scarlet Witch got not only gained higher control of her power, but was able to become a part of the Avengers because she was terrified. She was afraid hiding in the home, the hut, wherever she was hiding. And then he
in Age of
came
Ultron.
in Age of Ultron, right? And then he was like, you can sit here and mope, and I'll just tell your brother to come and get you. I think at one point he says, like, there are robots, there are gods, and I'm a guy with a bow and arrow. So he kind of teased fun at himself.
Yeah.
But then he said, you can sit here and I'll find your brother to come and get you, or you can step outside, and once you do, you're an Avenger.
Yeah.
And I think she's like, you know what? I need to stop. Like, I think she's arguably one of the strongest Avengers.
Yeah.
Because she and Captain Marvel get their power from the Infinity Stone. And I think even in Endgame, she almost defeated Thanos, and then Thanos got scared, and he was like rain fire.
Yeah.
So
you could see her too, because I think what Doctor Strange or somebody has said that Doctor Strange realizes that Scarlet Witch has magic, but it's just untamed. Like, she doesn't know how to control it.
Yeah.
And she really lost control when she was defeating Thanos.
Yeah, she did. She did. But it made sense because in Infinity War, she was able to hold back Thanos with one arm and destroy the Mind Stone. Is that what Vision has?
Mm-hmm.
And destroy the Mind Stone with the other. And Thanos had 5 of the Infinity Stones already in that moment. And she was holding back 5 Infinity Stones, Thanos, and destroying the Mind Stone at the same time. So it only made sense for an Endgame for him to be terrified because she's strong. And he didn't have the gauntlet. So all her power was going towards him, just his body, just him.
Yeah.
So that's why.
And in Endgame too, it was just like the scenes like, you took everything from me, and he's like, I don't even know who.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see like that's like it's a different Thanos in that one. And there's even like, it's crazy. There's development for Thanos too. But just before we get there, let's talk a little bit more about Hawkeye, when he says, in relation to him helping Scarlet Witch, he's kind of like a brother to Black Widow, and like maybe a father to Scarlet Witch, you can say. And he's kind of like that figure where he's just kind of demonstrating how to be, if not a leader, just like a caretaker for people. Like how to say, like how to just like understand somebody. Like he understands, like Black Widow has been dealing with a lot of stuff. And
Hawkeye has been the only Avenger that has been an Avenger while also having a family. Because Iron Man, he had a daughter and his wife, but he had that during the 5 years without the Avengers.
Exactly.
Hawkeye has been the only one who's been able to balance both and successfully done both. Like help the Avengers while also taking care of his family.
Yeah. I mean, he said, remember in Civil War, he's like, he's retired, and then after he, it's the snap, so then he goes crazy into Ronin.
Yeah.
He's retired, and then he gets on house arrest, and then he becomes Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
By like, he's just trying to go and find and kill people that he thinks did, were part of the snap in some way. But still, that shows what his character is, and I think that's what it is. He's like, that's his part to play in the Avengers, and his struggle is what he said in Age of Ultron, where he's like, you don't think they need me? Like, I'm just a guy with a bow. Like, you don't think they need me? I'm not necessary to the team.
Yeah, but also you could say the same thing for Black Widow, because she's an assassin just like he is, and she has, I think, batons and like the electric things.
Yeah, but I don't think Yeah, exactly. But I don't think she I don't think she understands that as like what her issue is. If we're talking about issues, like her issue is like her anger, like kind of like
Yeah.
Hulk's anger with the world. Hawkeye's issue, I think, is that where he's like, "Do they
Like,
need me?"
yeah. Exact yeah, yeah. Like, Black
Um,
Widow is more like, I'm, like, the moral compass in a sense, and I need to, like, control all these men in the beginning, 'cause in the beginning, it was just, like, the 6, so she was the only woman there. She's like, I need to kinda contain everyone and kinda get everyone back on the ground to kinda fight for themselves and fight for everyone else. Hawkeye was more like, I have to prove myself in a way.
yeah, and I think that's been his whole character and prove himself, and maybe that's why he didn't go to the Avengers after the snap that I killed his family too. Where he's
Mhm.
like, "I have to prove that I can protect my family." And
Yeah.
he didn't go back to the Avengers, and he's like, "I'm gonna go and become this character named Ronin, go undercover and see if I can solve this." And when it didn't, and when he reconnected with Scarlet Witch, he did, in a way. I mean, he did solve it. I mean, with his family, so it did everything worked out for him, but, not for everybody else.
Yeah.
But it shows what his character is. He's like, "You know what? I am worthy of being an Avenger, and that is that is what I am. I'm an Avenger, and I'm worthy to be an Avenger, and I'm caring for this family that I've also created, both in his
Yeah.
like real blood family and the family in the like the family that he has within the Avengers."
I mean, overall, we've seen such an evolution between the original 6, and then like they're not the same people that they were in the beginning. And if I think for some good, some bad. Bad in Hawkeye's, killing rage, but good in the
Mhm.
way that Iron Man and Captain America learned that the way they were living wasn't maybe the best way. Um, so I really liked watching those 6, and I'm really excited to see because we have so many more heroes. We have Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, we have Falcon and Bucky, we have Captain Marvel, um,
Mhm.
we have the new and improved Nebula, who is going to be close friends with the Guardians now. We have the Guardians, we have Thor, um, just so many more characters that are left to explore. Which I'm
Yeah.
really interested to see how they're gonna
Like
kind
how
of
they're gonna pass
steer away.
off.
Yeah, how they're gonna steer away from the loss of half of the original 6, the Black Widow, Captain America, and Iron Man.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe in another 10 years, we'll be talking about a new original 6, and their
Maybe.
and from their origin, which was Endgame, maybe.
Who do you think the next original 6 are gonna be? Definitely Spider-Man.
That's a good question.
Definitely.
That's okay. We'll end the episode on that. Who are
Okay,
going to be the next original 6? That'll be the question. We'll say to each other, and then that's the question we'll pitch to
okay.
you.
This is
Uh,
what I think. Because ooh, 'cause we're talking another 10 years, so definitely Captain Marvel and Spider-Man are in there.
I agree.
Um, God, this is difficult.
Uh,
I wanna say Ant-Man, but I don't know if he's gonna be an original 6. Like, one of, like,
um,
the
like
go-to
one of the main.
one of the mains, yeah, one of the main. Um,
Um, I want to say Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah, maybe. Maybe mm,
Scarlet Witch. I feel like Scarlet Witch. What else is she gonna do? I mean, in her Vision thing, her WandaVision, that
yeah,
series. I mean, she's probably maybe she's gonna be dealing with like the aftermath, and maybe it's gonna be like a prequel series where she's like kind of her relationship with Vision. But I think
yeah,
in the continuity of the movies, where else does she have other like her family other than the Avengers? So I feel like she's gonna be an integral part of that team, and maybe
yeah,
if Doctor Strange is also in that team, they could like be teaching each other. Like Doctor Strange can like hone her magic.
mhm. Do you think Falcon is gonna become one of the 6?
See, I'm really excited for that, for Falcon taking on the mantle of Captain America, because I
Yeah,
feel like he could be the leader because he was the leader. And
yeah,
if you look at his like the most iconic scene with Falcon, I think where it shows his like prowess and leading was in the Civil War airport battle where he's like, "Cap, I think if we're going to win this, some of us are not." He's like, and he made a sacrifice there. He's like, I'm going to probably lose and I'm going to end up in the raft in the prison.
yeah.
and he did. He did
I
that.
feel like Falcon is not appreciated enough. I mean, he's a soldier, and he defended Cap. He fights for Cap, even when he barely even knew Cap.
Hmm.
And I like the kind of comedic relief he has. I like the relationship with Bucky that he has, and I think Steve made the right decision in giving the mantle to
Yeah,
Falcon.
because in a
Because
way. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say because a lot of people are thinking, oh, you should have given it to Bucky. He's your best friend, but Bucky is so I don't want to say damaged, but he's been a victim of a lot. And
Yeah,
I don't know if he can live up to that like goodness and morality that encapsulates Captain America.
because
Something
as
like
we've
that.
said, Captain America is like already good. Like
He's already good,
And
yeah.
Bucky's still trying to figure out like how to get there.
Yeah.
And I
So
think Falcon demonstrates how good he is by fighting. He's like, if Captain America is going to fight, I'm going to fight with him. And he shows like I'm a man in uniform, kind of like how Captain America was like the entire time. He's like, I'm fighting for somebody else or for something else, for some greater good. To Falcon, that greater good was Captain America.
yeah.
And now he's Captain America.
So I want to include him in my next six. I think Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Falcon, Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and one more.
Is that 5?
That was five.
Spider-Man, Doctor Strange,
Spider-Man,
Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel. Um,
maybe one more.
See, now this one more. This is the issue between the two thing. I think.
Oh, what Black Panther?
Yeah. That was going to say Black Panther, but what about also like the Wasp?
Oh yeah, but then you have to put Ant-Man because don't they aren't they partners? Oh, but then
Yeah.
Falcon and Bucky, you can say the same thing about them.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of bring
Um,
in like there could be like the
yeah,
sidekick. But
yeah,
then
but
there's also. How about do we cheat a little bit and just put them both in?
well, I was gonna say put them both in, but like, uh, Captain America was original six, and the same time he was friends with Bucky and Falcon, and they weren't in the six. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
No, no.
really. I
I'm,
mean, I
I'm
guess
saying
you can.
I'm saying you cheat. You put in Wasp and Black Panther.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant Wasp and Ant-Man.
Oh no. Yeah,
Um,
you put Wasp and like by connection
Wasp
Ant-Man.
slash Black Panther.
Yeah. Because I feel with that you've got you've got Falcon, the new Captain America, as like your leader.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther are like all very super powered, but they're also kind of like doing their own thing. With Black Panther's got Wakanda to take care of. Doctor Strange has the whole like all the realms to like look after, and Captain Marvel's looking over the universe. Sorry. So you need some strong character to like be the face of the Avengers, kind of like Captain America
Yeah.
was the face of the Avengers. So I mean, Captain America could still be the face of the Avengers. It's just like a new face in the Falcon.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It's, I don't want to think of the next six because I love the original six, but
Yeah,
it's because like the next six are a new generation. They're another 10 years, hopefully another 10 years.
yeah. I mean, you never know where the story's going to go, but most likely. And then like what stuff is coming? Maybe a character like Shang-Chi could be part of the next six.
Yeah, that's true too. There are a lot of new, like Marvel's The Eternals is in question.
Yeah.
I
And did you
think they're
see
already casting.
Richard Madden was casting
I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, that is amazing. I think Angelina Jolie, she's in question as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're bringing some really like A-listers into this.
Yeah. July's going to be a big month.
It's gonna be a big month. Yeah, I'm excited.
Spider-Man's going to bring in the multiverse if if
Yeah,
Mysterio doesn't make it all a lie, and then after in the San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel's going to bring the big guns, and they're going to be revealing a lot of I think they said they're going to be revealing the titles of those 8 movies.
yeah,
And
but
somewhere in there is going to be the Black Panther, or sorry, yeah,
yeah,
maybe Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, maybe Captain Marvel 2.
a Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man. Oh yeah, Spider-Man 3. Yeah, because Far From Home was Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
Another maybe Avengers movie.
that's what I'm thinking right now. So but as of right now, as the characters that we know, like not looking into the future, like what may or may not come,
Yeah.
just the original 6 that we have. We're saying Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel, Falcon, and Wasp / Black Panther. That's what we're saying right now.
That's what we're saying. So that's what we're saying for our 6 Avengers. What
Yeah.
are you saying for your 6 Avengers?
Currently, don't bring in anyone else because we don't know yet.
Current Avengers, we don't know yet. And if you're listening to this in July, maybe. But those are our picks. What are your picks? Comment and like and subscribe, and tell us anywhere on social media what your 6 Avengers are, what your next 6 Avengers are going to be for the next decade of movies. And we hope you enjoyed Real Talks episode 1. This is a cool new series that we're pioneering, and we want to keep these Real Talks going. So thank you for tuning in to Real Talks episode 1. Thank you for listening to our chat about Avengers Endgame, what is the biggest movie of the year, and what is a real crazy experience to behold, especially in our lifetime. So we hope you enjoyed. We hope you'll keep listening to the logs, all the new content that's coming, and thank you. We want to say thank you. So we hope to see you next time.